Okay. Hi, Alvin. Thanks for joining our podcast today. I'm so excited to do it the second time because the first time the internet connection was so bad and I couldn't understand you. You couldn't understand me. So thanks for revisiting our podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Very good. Thank you for having me again on this podcast. Happy to share our insights.
There. Make sure you have connection when you record a video to your power outlet and good internet. We didn't have it, but now everything is perfect. Thank
Those
you
are
so
the
much.
necessary components.
Yeah, yeah. It is. It is. Actually, it was because of your, Alvin, you have a podcast yourself, and because of your podcast, you inspired me to have it in person.
Mm,
And because of that, you have a new learning, which is like make sure you have good internet when in person, because in person it's somewhat harder than doing it over here. So,
exactly.
Alvin Kampura, that's your name, right? Kantapura. So, where where did you grow up? And what brought you to this podcast here today? Because you do a lot of things, but where you grew up, what did you do in your life, and why did you study? Because you didn't want to study. You already told me that it kind of happened. So tell me everything.
Yeah, so I grew up in Bangkok. I live and also work here at the moment. So I grew up in a Thai Indian family. We came here to Thailand for the past like three generations already. And, we immigrated during the war when India and Pakistan, they kind of had the war after World War II. The country got separated. Many people during the time immigrated to other countries around the world, including the US, Canada, in Europe, and our ancestor came here to Thailand. And when they came here, they came pretty much with nothing and built up everything by themselves. And that's the background, the backstory of how I grew up. So I grew up with entrepreneurs by my side. Everyone that I knew, my cousins, my uncles, all of them were entrepreneurs. So the path to building a company, to building a startup, that was very natural from the very beginning because you had that atmosphere at home in your life to absorb from. And these everyone like especially if you Pius, I'm sure you know this when you, as an entrepreneur yourself, if you surround yourself with the five people around you that are always talking business, that are always coming up with new ideas, that are always brainstorming what they can do, it naturally inspires you to do more. So growing up in that type of background, I was inspired to build a company from a very young age. And then I started my first venture at 16, very inspired by my family members. And from that point on, it led to where I am now building an AI software here in Bangkok.
Ah, wow, that's so cool. So yeah, 100%. I mean, it was similar to me. I was around with entrepreneurs and stuff. You said the rule of five. I actually am not very good in surrounding myself intentfully with the best five people. I'm more like, I think I'm kind of a people pleaser in a way, right?
Uh,
If I'm honest with myself, I'm changing it a little bit right now, but I'm not very strategic about that. But somehow I'm lucky and I find great people like yourself and others. And you also are very well spoken and I love your story. But now tell me something that doesn't fit in. You could have done the entrepreneur stuff like out of a textbook. I love it. But tell me one thing that actually was a bit different or challenging. Like one thing that you think people should know that was challenging or different to the path that it seems like your family made for you to be an entrepreneur.
yeah. So growing up, as I said, being surrounded by entrepreneurs, being an employee was completely out of the equation. Given that they started building business all their lives, so they know that the opportunity is immense. But when I went to university and when I went to school, you were then surrounded by people who all they wanted to do was go into business, especially at the time when I was in university. The biggest craze was being in one of the top five consulting firms. So I kind of took a deviant path from
What are the
what
top five consulting firms? Yeah.
in Thailand it would be like if you're in accounting, it would be like the KPMG, McKinsey, Deloitte, those type of stuff. There's the big four. And
Yeah.
then like in where what I ended up doing was Accenture, which is also part of that top tier consulting firm. So,
Did you
having
enjoy
have
that? Did you enjoy working there? Was it cool?
to be completely honest with you, I was kind of having a bad time because I learned a lot. to put it fairly, I learned a lot from my consulting experience, and I think it's a valuable learning experience for anybody who's working out of like your first job out of university. If you go to a consulting firm, they kind of have these template for you built out of what you need to do and what you need to practice in order to elevate in your career. Everything from like how to write your email back before ChatGPT to like how to be well spoken in meetings.
Like you
Really,
now, right?
yeah, like they really invest time into teaching people. So I think that's the good part, keeping you professional. But if you're somebody who likes to think outside the box and who likes to explore and do crazy stuff, I think it can feel a little bit, you can feel a little bit stuck in your everyday because the work is very much like a template. There's a way of doing things and you kind of have to fit the way of doing
It's
things.
really, really interesting that you bring it up. It actually triggered something in me I never thought about. I always considered myself an employee, but now, if I look back, so my mom was single raising me. She was like an artist doing projects for
Mm,
theaters and
mm,
movies and stuff, like costumes. And my uncle, he's a farmer, but he also develops like machines and has a
mm,
compost plan and builds technology. So I grew up with him and my grandparents who are like entrepreneurs. Like it's a farm, but it's more like Austria farms are very small, and there's a lot of I would say, yeah, there's a lot of technology there. It's small. It needs to be highly productive. They rent out labor, and I don't know. Doesn't matter. And then I remember when I always wanted to become an employee. I don't know why. Like now I'm realizing I always wanted to become an employee. I think the stability of it kind of
yeah,
attracted me to it
yeah,
because I saw how difficult it was for my mom, like
yeah.
running the projects, not having projects all the time. Sometimes, we wouldn't have enough money to eat out,
Mm,
or, like it would be in Austria, in Vienna, or we co-rent out our apartment so we can split the rent. So it's typical in Austria, it's not like in Thailand, there's lots of space. My mom was 27 when I was born, so she was younger and an artist and doing stuff like half artist, half business person. And I think, like you, when I started, I really wanted to prove myself to get into the best, the McKinseys and BCGs. Thanks God, I was always rejected. But I got
mm,
a consulting job in a boutique brand
mm,
consulting company in Nuremberg. It was a bit more creative, so it suited me a bit more.
mm,
I worked for KPMG during a project in university. I worked for an investment bank, um, for L'Oreal. So I kind of got these insights for the investment bank in Frankfurt. I got this insight on, like you, on being employed in a highly structured job,
mhm,
and it kind of crushed me. Like,
mm,
I didn't accept it back then, but
mm,
now looking back, I learned things I didn't want to learn. Like I
mm,
learned things like, and I think that were not helpful, particularly to me. I think when you say like, yeah, it gives you these templates, but it gives you templates to become a good employee.
mm,
And I'm not a good employee. I'm like an exceptional contributor in certain areas, but I'm generally like not like a person that fits into something. And I mean, I'm a team player and stuff, but I think these processes and stuff, they just stifle and kill innovation. And I'm a
mm,
very creative, innovative person. I think so. Like,
mm,
and I spoke to this other founder from Data Button Trigger, and he called it cementing. When the process is cementing, like cement,
mm,
and then it gets hard, and it's basically, he felt
mm,
like in this company everything is cementing, is hardening, so it's getting so much harder
mm,
to move. And that is also how it feels to me. It feels like as this company grow, like from when I worked at Facebook, Meta, from 5,000 to 50,000 people, everything started cementing,
mm,
become slower. And to me, it was like so much pain. It was not the sort of pain I wanted to endure. It was the sort of pain that I think that didn't serve me.
mm,
Anyway, the same for Canva. At some point, it didn't serve me. Sorry, that was kind of a tangent, but you really, really made me see something I haven't seen in myself. So thank you so
mm,
much for that. Yeah. So coming back to you, after your thing in consulting, you then studied also a little bit in London. You went to LSE, one of the best universities in the world, in the UK. How was it there? Like, what made you move there? Tell me more.
I completely agree with you on the cementing process. That's how it actually feels. When you're in a company, it does feel a little bit stifled. But if you are a very young person, I think there's a lot of learning opportunity as well in consulting. So just to paint pictures on both sides, I think there's still quite a good opportunity in learning. But coming back to your question, so LSE for me was a dual program that I studied. So I studied economics. That's my main major that I studied in university here in Bangkok. And I've always had a passion or interest in politics. I've been an avid history reader since I was young, and I always wanted to know
Why were
more.
you interested in history? What was the reason? That's very random.
It's something that was always a conversation in dinner tables.
Okay.
We were always talking about, so my father, my grandfather, they were interested in politics, especially Thai politics, but we also talk like world politics. And so, when you're young and when you're a kid and you don't have enough facts, you could always, like, you would always have to go and find more to engage in those dinner conversations.
So
So
your
that's
family is kind of intense, right? Like in a good
yeah,
way. So they would be talking about stuff that is contextually like complicated as
yeah,
history, and you
yeah,
would speak
yeah.
about it on a yeah.
Yeah, that's our dinner. Our dinner is a lot about discussions about politics, about world politics. And so that's the environment that I grew up. So I would go in and I would read more. I would try to add to the discussion. I would try to add to the
Do you have
conversation. That's how
siblings?
I do. I have a sister. Yeah.
And then would you challenge each other or compliment, or tell me like a little bit more? How would you
So we
create
would
these
we would we would
discussions?
complement each other. So I would basically share a lot of what I learned with her, like the resources. And most of the time, when I was growing up, it was not always books, but it was YouTube's. So YouTube channel, there's a lot of like good history snippets, good history podcasts, or like a documentary style. So that's how we would share insights and knowledge with each other. And these infographic type of videos, animated videos,
I
they
love them.
were
They're so good,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
they were my go-to things when I was growing up. So that's what made me interested in politics since a very young age. It's also family background.
And how does it translate to your business now? Because to me, you come across as a very collaborative thought leader.
Mhm.
Is this true that you would be like, to me, you think about what you communicate on Friday to your people? Is this part of this dinner conversations you had in a
I
way?
think about I think if it's a good question. It's now making me think. I think having like growing up watching these documentaries and history video, especially like one of my go-to thing, which is quite a quirk, is watching presidential address. I would watch a lot of them, like from like Reagan to like Bush to Obama to Trump and like in between. Yeah. So like these were my like things that I would watch, and I would try to emulate and learn how they speak. And
Really?
most of these speeches are vision driven, right? Like they're talking about bigger stuff. And so that's how I think I got a lot of my leadership styles, about talking about the vision of where we're headed, the goal, the bigger picture of where we're going. So I think it
So when
did
you
it
execute,
did
you speak about the
inspire.
vision. So how do you keep executing? How do you keep grinding?
We're always tracking stuff, so we're always on the dot of where we want to execute. And on a weekly and daily basis, we're not really talking about the bigger stuff, but on a monthly basis in our all hand, that's where I try to reconnect back and at least like see the picture of, is this ship steering in the right direction?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. Like, I would get feedback that I'm not strategic. People don't understand. Like, how would I say it? I'm not strategic. I'm not this type of stuff. In when the companies would get bigger, but it
Mm,
would have like fucking big impact when I work.
mm, mm,
I would move the team aside and align them on really focusing on execution over everything. I mean, that's really my mantra.
mhm.
I believe really in. I'm kind of, I think, controversial, or like I see different. I believe in the vision as well. but I think you don't know till you do it. So I think we have very different style in that way. So I really think like you figure out the strategy as you execute, and execution is the strategy for us because you learn quicker, you get more nuance, you get deeper into the weeds. If people are not executing, they never see the why. There's this article I read is like um, about why, like finding out the why, like why you do things. And it says about it's the job of a good um, not employee, a good team member in a team to figure out the why as well. And I think that's very important. So you're working on a problem. It's kind of as a startup, you don't really know what's going to happen 100%. I mean, in hindsight, it always makes sense that Airbnb had the sleeping mattresses and Canva had this thing with the Photoshop course. You know, it all makes sense in hindsight. But I think when people do it, they know very little what they're actually up to.
Mm,
You know, in hindsight, you always tell the story, and that only works because I think for me that we execute a lot and learn and feel like we feel like a lot. And like now,
mm,
now we're launching this AI Insights tool. It's like free. It's tangentially related to our business,
mm,
and I have no idea how if it works. I believe it's not going to work. We're trying our best.
mm,
And I think I'm jealous of people like yourself who are like extremely structured and then have this approach and it just doesn't work for me. I tried. So
mm,
we had, no, of course, we have our OKRs and stuff like that,
mm, mm,
but it just doesn't work for me, unfortunately. So yeah, big kudos to
mm.
you. What's your tip? What's your tip for people like myself?
I, I, I,
Yeah.
I I would agree with about 80% of the stuff you said as well. I think we do the similar stuff. I think the vision isn't something static, isn't it's not something you start a business and you're like, hey, we're gonna do this thing and we're always gonna stick to this course. It's something that's adaptive. That's what I found over the last 2 years of building this business, is that it can move and it keeps changing, but for us, driving through execution, seeing results, doing experiments, that's what gives us proof, real foundation to building on top of these visions. But having these or coming back to it every once in a while, for me at least, like talking about the bigger picture of why we're doing it, why do we want to do it, why do this and why not do every other thing else? Like you could do anything else. Like why is this thing? Like why does it matter to you as a person? And
Yeah. I think it's a
if
lot about why it matters to you as a person, as a founder, right?
yeah, and if you can speak from that core, I think people follow that, people see that as authentic, and people want to go because at the end of the day, they're not really my style is not you don't follow me, but we're going to that place, like it's an island and we're all going there. And if you work hard, you push to the end, like the outcome is that we're gonna get there, but the outcome is not that any one person gets rich or you're following that one person. So that's always been my style of, you work hard so that we can get to that place together. I can point somewhat to that direction, but we will figure it out as we go. Yeah.
What's one thing you learned in the last 2 weeks? I can also tell you one thing
Mm.
I need to think about. What's one thing you learned in experiments? It can be process wise, about yourself, about the business, sales.
I've learned that, like, so one of our main features at the moment, as you're building these tools out, I think in a highly competitive market, as a global market, you're competing with the best players in the market, players like ChatGPT, players like Perplexity. And one of our main features, one of our core feature, is now going to be part of ChatGPT normal, plus package, right?
You mean the
So
transcribing, right?
meeting
Yeah.
recording, right?
Yeah,
So
meeting recording. Yeah.
for us, we've always had the idea of we're going to go deeper. Over the last 2 weeks, I've had to push that pace up in our organization so that we differentiate faster, we move into the vertical faster. So I think the signs have always been there. Sometimes competition, when it comes, like in the moment, it's stressful. It's like, hey, we're going to have to change the priorities that we're working on very quickly. But I think over time, I'm starting to see that it's a very good thing. It actually pushes you to go in the right direction, pushes you to talk to your customer even more and being more aggressive, because that at the end of the day, the more you talk to your customer, the more you try to understand and deepen into a vertical, the more you're gonna win and dominate that niche. So I think over the last 2 weeks, competition has been top of my mind. What about you?
I want to ask a bit more about that. What does it
Mm,
mean, like going deep in vertical? It sounds like so nice.
mm.
Specifically, like what is one thing you did? So one example. Yeah, I'm just curious
So
about it. Yeah.
so we're seeing that like the general level assistant, these are going to be dominated by ChatGPT, and it always made sense to me as somebody looking into the market because they're trying to build like the super assistant takes all your context, basically knows everything about your life, so they can give you the best recommendation at any point in time. The AI never loses context. All right. That's one. But in every vertical, for example, where we really wanted to dominate at the beginning was sales, right? We knew that, sales conversation, these are areas where there's tons of insights, but currently uncaptured, especially calls and when you're meeting and talking to customers. So we're integrating a lot of the insights features now into our tool that allows you to basically capture the human language, like when you're talking, but turn it into more structured data that that basically allows sales team to monitor each conversation, allows the manager to
Interesting.
see
So
into
very
these
specifically
conversations.
tailored. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're building this now with our customers. So we're building this for our customer first as a POC that we're going to work directly with them to basically understand what their requirements are, how they want to track these conversations, and so that's where we're going.
Okay. I like it. I'm just reflecting myself while you talk and taking notes. So basically, what you're saying is the specific customization where you don't compete on context and what they know about you, but more about what's important for sales.
Mm,
That's very interesting because when I talked to the data button company 2 weeks ago, I had a question around why is in GenAI for Bold, for Lovable hosting a Horizon, and as well for data button, why are there the designs also similar? And it kind of uses an underlying library and it's generic. And I think the point is the limitation there is it cannot go very detailed. So
mm,
I think we talked about it offline. I think there will be no, we didn't. So I think there will be this for websites and design. There will be this long tail of stuff that all looks the same. It always happened with templates, with Squarespace, Wix, Shopify. They all look the same. And then you have now with AI, it's gonna look even more the same for more stuff. And then but what it means is that for the super creative stuff, like for the custom creative things, this will become much more expensive because people will value uniqueness
mm,
and the models, I think, can only do so. The models just predict the past and recreate it, right?
mm, mm,
And they can only do so much to actually do something very different that is new. It's like being a designer, right? And designing
mm.
something. I think maybe they can replace it and predict what we find more interesting. But the trend, I think, is and the things that are more specialized, like for sales or for design creation or for, I think that will be uncompeted. I don't know how big the pie. Maybe the pie will shrink and it won't work at some point. I don't know that, but I think what you say
But I
makes a
think
lot of
as you
sense.
capture unique context within an organization, those are also like if you can get in and you have a smaller data set, your LLM becomes better tuned to respond for that purpose specifically, rather
100%.
than from a larger data set and it becomes more generic advice.
Actually, I don't know that, but it makes sense what you say. Yeah, yeah, I believe
Yeah.
you. I believe you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a like a lot of conversation happening around like smaller models and then using lesser but dense contexts that are highly concentrated. It makes you gives it if you know that your data quality is high and it's a small pool, it could give a better results. So that's what we're
yeah,
exploring as well.
nice. Yeah. Yeah. Now it's my turn. So you can pick from me on company setup related stuff and like kind of boring executional bottlenecks like hiring, delegating, or I mean, what is going very well, first of all, is the product and design. For some reason, we are keep pushing. And
Mm,
then tools, login and access issues. So,
mm.
and personal stuff. What do you want to hear? I have 3 topics in each area. Anything you're interested in or not
I
interested
wanted
in?
to hear about the company thing. That was interesting.
My
We
God.
talked a little bit about it before the call.
Yeah, so this was the biggest pain actually for me in the last 2 weeks. So last week, it turned out there's a huge tax liability in Australia and the US because the income statement were classified in a way that we didn't know about, and we don't have any income
Mm-hmm.
because we make loss. Fast forward, the impact was that we were about to close down the company because I had no fucking idea what
So you
happened.
registered in both like in the US and in
Yeah,
Australia.
it happened independently,
Okay.
completely
Okay.
independent, different reasons. And I discovered it. The accountant had
Mm.
no idea. The accountant would make up stuff on the spot, like, oh, it's a scam, it's not true, but it kind of seems true. Anyhow, fast forward, I had a lot of things with accounting and tax, and I had to do the work on going very deep on topics I had absolutely no idea about and figure out what was going on. Thanks God, everything was figured out
Mm.
in the till today. I
Mm.
don't want to go into details because it was so painful, but I spent like the weekend
Mm.
talking with lawyers and finding the right lawyers in the US and also in Australia to know what is going on.
Mm.
And so that was one topic. And the TLDR is if you're stuck, go to Upwork, go to Upwork and
Okay.
find someone who can help you, don't rely on your network of CPAs and accountant, go outside. Like, I think, I mean, I love
How do you
my,
interview for them? Is there any method you found through your journey
just get
over the
started.
last week?
Just get started. First step is just get started, speak to people
Okay.
and use ChatGPT or whatever you can to get knowledgeable in areas you don't understand
Mm.
because the accountants are liable for the advice they give you. So they will be very reluctant on pricing anything, understanding everything. So I think my learning is you as a business owner are responsible and really understanding the details financially of your business as good as possible at any point. And I wasn't prepared for that. Like I was like, yeah, it's going to be fine, blah, blah, blah. And then it hit me like a wave I didn't expect.
Mm.
And I was spending last week, I think, 25 hours on that. And on the week, I spent time on Saturday as well and Sunday. And it really, really, really impacted my stress level
Mm.
because I just didn't know. But I think my friend, so that's the learning. Go outside when this happens. Be okay. Like, and don't be like me. I think most people are not like me because I'm just very intense and will solve everything immediately. So be calm. Reach out to me if you need help. I won't give any advice, but I can guide you. I can give you a virtual hug.
Mm.
And then don't rely only on your network when this happens. Like try to find other solutions outside it to get a fresh perspective, and that really helps. That really helps. I also had that was one thing. The other thing is like a negotiation about pricing on topics you don't understand. Yeah, I just break down everything to milestones. I ask ChatGPT for estimates before I go to the accountants. It's this rule to don't ask your price till don't be the first to drop the price, but just drop the estimates and
Mm.
instead of so I ended up paying instead of $50,000 restructuring cost, I paid 700 because of that.
Mm.
Just because I did the research and I made myself knowledgeable. I also had a conversation with my tax advisor in Austria
Mm.
where they, you know how it is, like they give you like an estimate and then it is always more.
Mm.
And I basically asked him very kindly to reduce it. And I'm having a lot of these conversations where I'm trying to negotiate a bit more friendlier. Like, I always have been exercising my rights, but now I'm trying really to explain in more detail why it would be good to revisit it. And I'm trying not to be rude about it, anymore. So I'm trying to explain, look, I'm happy to pay that, but for this, I think I'm setting like boundaries as good as I can and being respectful, but doing that as well with the people I work with that I value, I want to keep, and then I'm expanding into new networks when I have big problems like I had last week. Yeah,
That's a good advice. Upwork.
yeah, Upwork or Upwork, Fiverr,
Yeah.
really great. Was this interesting for you? Did you ever had a problem like that?
Not yet, thankfully, not yet. But we had similar. We didn't have anything big expense, but we did have some charges. Like working in Thailand, if you registered in a company in Thailand, there's always like hidden costs, hidden charges. So we're also still negotiating some of our ways through it. There's ways to like talk your way out of it. So we're still figuring that part out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's good problems to have because you grow. Like my friend, this I met this person here, Thai person. She runs a salami curing company in Bangkok. One of the best local salamis in Bangkok. I'm gonna ask her the name for it. 1 second. What is the name of your company? Asking for a friend. Anyhow, so she runs this business and it's like fucking amazing. She makes like the best salamis here and it tastes like from Italy.
Mm,
And I'm very impressed because she runs the business as long as me for 2 years. But the
mm,
difference is she actually makes revenue, like much
mm,
more. It's a physical business and she's very calm about it. And it's like, you know, I'm always so happy and impressed when I meet people like that. And it just, you know what they say. When I was an employee or younger employee, I don't know what I think I was quite immature, always felt like envious and I want to be better. You know, I want to be better. And now I just feel happy when people are better because
mm.
I went through so much things. So I'm
That's a good
like,
feeling. That's a
you
great
know, I
feeling.
just feel
Yeah,
happy
yeah,
when people do better than me.
yeah,
And
yeah.
of course, I'm competitive. I want to succeed, but I think I'm very happy for you that you have your team, you're different, you're successful in different ways. And I'm generally, all the people I speak here on this podcast, I'm generally happy when they succeed. I don't know why, but I
Mm,
feel like, wow, it's like amazing. Like everyone I speak to, yeah, there's some people, of course, that don't wish you well, and it's a bit harder to be happy for, but generally, I'm happy for that, for everyone. Like, I think this is like awesome. Anyhow, so I want to speak not about the salami business, I want to speak about you. So, what is your vision for your product? So, you want to go more into vertical, you spoke about that. And how do you think it fits into Southeast Asia? I mean, is Southeast Asia or Bangkok the best place in the world to create an AI startup? Be honest with me. And then also, what is your strategy on making it the best place, maybe? Or maybe it is the best place. Yeah.
So I think it's generally what I'm finding is that companies here, they a lot of the times they when they see technologies like AI and they hear about it, their immediate reaction is excitement and they want to do something about it, but they're slower to react. So in the US, like you would have companies already like in the last year or two already developing POCs, probably now going into production, they're having agents running some of their workflows already and automating those stuff. But here it's still more in the planning and strategizing phase rather than execution. And some of the times when they go into actual execution, they want to do it themselves. So this is the difficult challenge as well as a startup where you have to navigate because you're talking to companies, they might like your idea, but they're going to ask, hey, isn't it easier for me just to hire, like, because labor is cheaper here and just do it yourself as a company, and it's like a then I own the tech stack, then I own the whole data, then I know what I'm doing rather than working with a startup or working with other companies for them to come and implement. So we're learning that as we're building, number one is if you're building in Southeast Asia, you have to think about revenue very hard because you're not going to raise a large funding round like in the US. So you're going to have to think about revenue. And then when you're going to these companies, we're learning to go into it differently. So we're going into it semi as a solution. Like half of it is like, hey, we have a pre-built solution, so we're faster, but we're also very open to a lot of customization. So in terms of sales, for example, as a sales co-pilot, there's a lot of metrics to measure your sales team by. So we're completely open to customizing all of that, how they coach their team, so how the AI actually then goes on to coach their team in calls. We're also open to customizing that to fit their own culture and their way of doing things. So going in with somewhat of a solution that gives you the edge that, hey, you don't have to build from scratch. You're not going to have to figure out how to call OpenAI from basics. We've built something, and then we're open to like negotiating on how much you can customize on top of this solution to directly fit your need. So that's the direction we're going. But bigger picture, I'm a salesperson myself. So I love selling, and I think the future of sales is still bright. I don't believe in this chatbot completely selling for you all the time, but it will automate a lot of the process, like qualifying leads for you, doing a lot of the grunt work of following up. But the work of building relationship with someone and actually winning their trust, this still requires a human being. And I think as AI come in, we want to automate the layer that's boring, like qualifying leads, like nurturing leads, like following up on stuff, and then just asking for paperwork, sending documents, writing up details, proposals. Those are the boring work of a salesperson. The real fun stuff is like when you get to talk to a person, when you understand who they are, and when you connect on a human level, I think more of that will be done. And so our vision for our company is to build tools that automate these boring stuff, customize it for companies that fit the need, get revenue, but at the same time enhance salespeople. So that's our pitch when we go
So
in as
also
well.
like some sort of sorry, I don't want to put in a box, but also some sort of workflow automation for sales specifically, right?
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
But also a training tool. Because what we've learned is now, especially in this environment, when we're talking to Thai companies in Thailand, as the country is aging, hiring new people to replace in the past used to be easy. Now it's difficult. So you really have to nurture your people, coach them, and then make sure they can sell. If they are not working out, you need to find ways to really quickly mitigate that. Otherwise, you're
Okay,
going to be
okay.
out of a talent.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's such a good angle also for your business to really cement yourself in the market. No, like put a foot in the market. I just use this
Mm,
word for fun. No. Um, that's cool. So, well, I mean, this is really so interesting speaking with you about everything AI, and I feel we will have definitely another session like this. I have a
for
feeling about it
sure, for sure.
in the next few months. This has been one of the most interesting podcasts about the AI in sales I had and
Mm.
conversations. So thank you so much for that, Alvin.
The message. So I over the weekend I got a chance to hear Sam Altman's speech at Y Combinator. So he delivered a speech and he talked about this being the best possible fucking time to build a company, right? You have all the tools in your toolkit to build a company. It's easier than ever. I think at this point in time, like if you have a passion, if you have something that you've been wanting to do, really encouraging a lot of people, a lot of young people to try to do something with that passion because the world needs more ideas, the world needs more solution. And I think there is more that can be done to solve some of our biggest challenges that we're facing today, from like climate to all of the stuff that we have in our streets, in our everyday neighborhood, right? So that's what I would love to encourage more people to do. I think AI is enabling more than it's like killing jobs. I believe
Can
that.
people reach out to you on LinkedIn or so and
Happy
ask you?
to,
Yeah.
happy to.
So what
So
should they
so
do? Yeah.
if you see me on LinkedIn, I pretty much respond to 60 to 70% of my DMs. Some of them are like sometimes it's very good, sometimes it just takes me down a bad rabbit hole. But yeah, you can always DM. I pretty much respond to most of them.
Okay. Sounds good. Perfect. Same for me, but go to Alvin. He actually knows what he is talking about. So I'm just
No,
here as a host.
I learned a lot from you, Pius, on building a product. So thank you for that.
No
And
worries.
great
Yeah.
catching up with you in Bangkok.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Okay. See you later. And thanks so much. Go to Alvin and reach out to him if you have any questions about building your company in Southeast Asia and beyond. Bye, Alvin. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Have a good day. Cheers.